All right, so let's be honest. We can talk about a lot of the behavioral things that millionaires do in order to kind of build wealth, but really what we want to key in on so we don't miss the mark, we want to key in on the mindset, right? What causes people to do what they do? What causes people to make the decisions that they make? Because some people make decisions every day that lead towards wealth, while other people make decisions every day that leads towards stagnation or debt or ruin, honestly. And so we want to figure out what's the difference? What's that piece there? It has to be mindset. So we want to take a look at a few overarching principles, some broad things, very broad things that you can kind of take and tailor to your own life and make it make sense for you. Because again, everybody's journey is different. So we got a few broad things we're going to go over. Stick around. I think you're going to like it.
I was a diamond in the rough. They said what we had wasn't enough. They said there was no more room for us. But now we here about to tear it up. I was a diamond in the rough. They said what we had wasn't enough. They said there was no more room for us. But now we here about to tear it up.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to take a look at is just this brief intro to a study that Chris Hogan did of 10,000 millionaires, right? Just learning about what they think about, their thought process, how they did, what their background is, right? And it's good to just kind of see and hear from a large data pool of individuals who have gotten to a place that you want to get to learn about how did they get there, what took place, and really to understand the mindset that allowed them to do so. So let's take a little quick look at this intro and see what we have.
Everywhere we turn, we hear negative financial news, that everyday people can't succeed, that the American dream is dead. But is this really true? We went on a hunt to see what a millionaire really looks like. Well, welcome everyone. I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and if you can answer yes to any of the questions, come across the line. We hear that wealth is gained through family money or just pure luck. How many of you inherited a large sum of money? People believe that only those with an advantage in life can truly be successful. If you've had an individual income of $250,000 or more, please come forward. Maybe you think that if you could just get that raise or that promotion, it would all work out. But what if that big break never comes? Can people with everyday jobs, like teachers and firefighters, build real wealth? What about the self-employed? Or the single parents that are doing the best they can to provide for their kids? Or those who grew up in lower to middle income households? Do they have the same chance at success? Or can ordinary people build extraordinary wealth? I've got one final question for you. How many of you are millionaires? Anyone can become a millionaire, no matter what you come from. And we want to show you how.
As you can see here, one of the first things that Chris Hogan lists is millionaires take personal responsibility. So one thing that I really want to point out about that, because that's a really general blanket item that really anybody could kind of guess. But what I think is critical to piece out from that is the difference between responsibility and fault. Because a lot of people get really trapped and bogged down in fault and really never get out of this place of really just taking action, taking the reins, taking control of the situation, and doing everything that they can to change the outcome, right? To change your present, to change your future. And one of the people who really spoke to this in the separation of this was Will Smith. And I want to play a little clip from what Will Smith had to say about the difference between fault and personal responsibility.
I was just having a debate with a friend of mine, and we got stuck on the difference between fault and responsibility. She kept talking about how something was somebody's fault, it's somebody's fault. And I was like, it don't matter whose fault it is that something is broken if it's your responsibility to fix it. For example, it's not somebody's fault if their father was an abusive alcoholic, but it's for damn sure their responsibility to figure out how they're going to deal with those traumas and try to make a life out of it. It's not your fault if your partner cheated and ruined your marriage, but it is for damn sure your responsibility to figure out how to take that pain and how to overcome that and build a happy life for yourself. Fault and responsibility do not go together. It sucks, but they don't. The road to power is in taking responsibility. Your heart, your life, your happiness is your responsibility and your responsibility alone.
Right, so I really feel like this is something really critical and maybe a breakthrough for some people to really understand the difference between fault and personal responsibility. Fault and responsibility. There are a lot of things that you can probably list that have happened to you that really have nothing to do with you, other than the fact that you're the recipient of some sort of negative activity or negative ongoing, right? So, you know, what your parents did beforehand. You know, did you have a proper upbringing? Did your parents understand finances or understand, you know, how to generate wealth or how to make sure everything was taken care of in such a way that you could build off of that, right? You may not have had that, but wherever you are, you can start from that place of where you are. Take responsibility for your happiness. Take ownership of your happiness and ownership of your progress, right? So you're starting from wherever you start from, but that progress, that belongs to you. The victory of that belongs to you and no one else. And so you really have to understand that. Take responsibility for where you are and responsibility for where you're going, right? But again, that doesn't mean it's your fault. It just means that no one is going to be a larger advocate for you than you. Take that on personally as something that, in a prideful way, really, that you are the one who's going to be your largest advocate. And being your largest advocate, what are you going to do in order to make sure that you get to that next level? So if we get this particular key, I think that would do us very well in the way of changing our mindset, doing things that we believe are going to get us from point A to point B, ultimately to Z, right? And take ownership of that. And in terms of us being the beneficiary of all of our labor towards getting towards that goal. Now you can start from where you are today. And that's kind of what's going to lead us into our next step of start from where you are. Be appreciative of the crawl stages. You crawl before you can walk and then you can run. Be appreciative of the place that you are where you find yourself crawling and find yourself leading from the crawl into your walk and ultimately into your run. So let's talk about that crawl stage.
There are tried and true ways to building wealth. Without a doubt, there's a pathway. There's a recipe. We just have to follow it. I think the first thing you have to do, the start point, is to believe that it's possible for you. And I say that because if you don't believe you can, you won't. And so the mindset around it and understanding, the reason we did the largest study of millionaires ever done before was to really break down a lot of myths, to be able to help people see it and understand it so they can then choose to believe that they can intentionally, very intentionally.
Okay, so we just heard Chris Hogan kind of talk about that whole point of, embracing that start, right? Believing that you can do it, believing that it's something in your power to do. And that really kind of keys into that responsibility. Once you feel responsible for that and you feel the ownership of that, if you think about it in a positive way, it really kind of frees you from a lot of things in your past, and it allows you to say, hey, you know what? I'm starting from right now. I'm starting today. I'm telling you right now, I'm pretty sure not even just you, I'm sure you're thinking of this too, but there's so many people at home thinking, but this, you don't understand that this happened, and you don't understand that I've done this. You don't understand I owe these people this amount. You can only do what you can do from today, to start from today, right? You assess the situation and then you address the situation. Assessment is fine. Take a look at everything that's taken place, but you can do it. There's a way to do it. And taking ownership of that can really help you to be emboldened and empowered in a lot of ways to push forward. The other thing, outside of believing that you can and really giving yourself permission to start over and to do things a different way, is also kind of avoiding the trappings of letting external voices come into that and impact the way that you behave due to your thought process of wanting to please and prove things to other people. So again, that mindset. So the one is the internal voice of, what am I telling myself? What's happening internally that makes me not want to push really hard towards achieving this goal, or makes me feel like I can't do it? So you address that internal voice. And then you also address that internal voice that allows external things to come in and denature your thought process and change you in a way that makes you want to impress other people that could care less about you, right? That makes you do the whole dance of the fake rich. If you look at my previous video, you'll see I kind of discussed the whole fake rich thing and how that really keeps us down, bogged down, and financially insolvent, right? So I want to pan now to Boyce Watkins, who's going to talk a little bit about what he calls the financial illusion, that really kind of gets into that fake rich aspect of things, but understand the mindset of how you get there and how you stay out of that.
A financial illusion is when you're giving the impression that you have financial security when you actually do not. There are studies that show actually that poor people or of lower income tend to overspend on luxury items. They tend to spend a larger percentage of their income and sometimes larger dollar amounts on luxury items, Gucci belts and stuff like that. Not that rich people don't buy Gucci, I'm not saying that at all, but poor people sometimes are drawn to these things because they want to prove that they're not poor. And if I pretend like I am doing well like you, or if I roll up in a nice car or have a nice outfit, you're going to treat me like I'm a better person. And that's a bad habit to get into. And it's the ultimate recipe for ending up financially devastated. Because here's the thing, most of the people that you're trying to impress, a lot of them are broke. Like why are you trying to impress broke people? Like seriously, why are you trying to prove to somebody that you ain't broke when their ass is broke? It's like everybody's trying to keep up with the Joneses when the Joneses are broke as fuck. The bottom line, point blank period, is go through life looking for real financial security, not just the perception or the appearance of security. And I know it takes time. It takes a while. You got to break cycles. You got to break the cycle. Seriously, to break the cycle. Poverty ain't.
Okay, so we just heard Boyce Watkins really giving us information about that whole financial delusion. Many of you, I'm certain, already know what that looks like. Many of you may actually partake and participate in some of that yourselves, and that's okay. Don't be, feel ashamed or anything like that. It's just really understanding kind of what type of activity, thought process, and mindset creates this atmosphere for us that really is not conducive to our betterment over time, whether that be financial or otherwise, actually. But really financially, trying to impress people that could care less about us and other people who are actually probably worse off than you are, right? To try to feel like you are doing something you're really not able to do. And so how do we do that? How do we combat that? How do we get out of that mindset? Well, first of all, being aware of it is really something that is mind-blowing in itself. Just being aware of the things that you're doing and why you're doing them really is helpful. But the next thing I really want to key in on is being intentional, the intentionality of what you're doing. And being intentional really does play a large role in being able to build towards a goal, right? How can you build towards a goal that you have not set? Really, I mean, and you can actually take a look at one of my previous videos, which was about vision boarding, creating a vision board, right? To really understand, well, what is your goal? What are your wants? What are your needs? What is critical for you? What are your fanciful or even outlandish goals, right? That you can kind of start to build towards and say, hey, if I write these things down and I take actual steps, I can really build towards these things, even though they seem outrageous to me right now, right? Allow yourself to dream and to think bigger, right? So being intentional, having a strategy. You can't have a strategy for something that you haven't set. So you can't be tactical and operational for something that you haven't set. So having strategy, being intentional, understanding what you want to get out of things can really help inform your day-to-day steps, right? It can help inform your spending habits, what you spend money on, what you do, and all of that. So next thing is going to seem like I'm keying in on a behavior, but it's really more so talking about the mindset that causes people to key in on that behavior, right? So the behavior is really investing and different avenues and tools that people use to invest. But the mindset behind investing is that, you know, short-term sacrifice, long-term gain. Make the conscious effort to take funds that you have and put it towards things that will grow over time that you're not really touching today. It's okay. Take the money, find a sound investment, put the money over here, and allow it to grow and work for you while you're taking care of other things. You're going to be losing out on that money in the short term in terms of actually being able to see it work for you. But investing over the long term helps your money grow exponentially moving forward. So really understanding the importance of investing, understanding the importance of why you're investing and what that does for you and how that works to your benefit, that really informs you and allows you to be okay with not having access to that fund in a liquid fashion, or those funds in a liquid fashion immediately. Talking about investing is not just the action, but why do people do so? So we're going to hear a little bit about just the action of investing. How many millionaires do it? And if so many millionaires do it, what's to it?
Right, absolutely. The number one tool these millionaires said that they used was company retirement plans. 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, and Roth IRAs. And so it wasn't some magic formula. It was consistently investing month after month. Close to 70% of them said that they used an investment professional. So they weren't doing it on their own. They were consistently investing. You're absolutely right. And, you know, there wasn't a magic formula. One of the stats that I wanted to share with you today in the Did You Know is 74% of millionaires invest outside and in addition to their company plan. Let me say that again. 74% of millionaires invest outside and in addition to their company plan. Now, when I say company plan, VIPs, what I'm referring to are 401ks and 403bs. These are the retirement plans you have eligible based on where you work. Investing outside of retirement could look like IRAs, Roth IRAs, even growth stock mutual funds outside of retirement. You actually can go invest in those. And here's the crazy thing. A third of the millionaires, remember we talked over 10,000 of them, a third of them never made a six-figure household income. I want y'all to hear something. I said household income. That meant if two people were working, they combined together didn't make $100,000. But yet they still over time invested and became everyday millionaires. So it's not, like Mindy said in the beginning, it's not about this super high income. And I think it was really important for me to chop down these myths. You know, they didn't go to fancy schools. They didn't take ridiculous leverage schemes or use cryptocurrency. I needed to break these myths down because I needed people to go, oh, I can do it. Oh, I don't have to belong into this special club. I can make a decision and walk a path just like these other everyday people.
So I want to touch back a little bit about that piece of investing, right? And are people really investing, or what does the market look like from people who generate wealth out of the stock market? And so what we have here is just a Forbes article where it says most Americans don't have a real stake in the stock market. And they reference some data here showing that in April of this year, 2020, that only about 55% of people were invested in the stock market. And just here, you'll see a little data that talks about what that looks like demographics wise in certain aspects. So you'll see here it says older white people with high incomes are much more likely to own stock. Search Center finds 88% of those in households earning $100,000 or more own stock compared to 19% of those in households earning less than $35,000. Families headed by white adults are more likely than those headed by Black or Hispanic adults to be invested in the stock market. A majority, 61% of non-Hispanic white households own some stocks, compared with 31% of non-Hispanic Black and 28% of Hispanic households. You'll go back up to the top here, we'll see that the Federal Reserve study found that only about 1/3 of families in the lower half of the income scale had stock holdings. In the next 40% of the income scale, about 70% of households held stocks, while households in the top 10% of the income scale had stock ownership rates of above 90%. So are we starting to kind of see a trend there of people who invest in the stock market? Well, you can say chicken or the egg, but people who invest in the stock market tend to be high earners, right? Or higher earners when it comes to the shakeout. So I would say that understanding that and wanting to create generational wealth, you might have to take a look and say, well, if people who have generational wealth, 90% of them invest, then maybe that's something I should look at and understand how to do it and what the process is. So being armed with this information that, this is a behavior that probably should indicate a mindset change for me, right? So understanding that, though that's what they're doing, why do they do it? Why do people invest? And that's because generally when people invest and they do so in a smart way, their money grows, right? Things become more valuable over time. People understand that, and so they make it a point to do so, where you can really draw a direct correlation between wealthy people who invest at 90% and then as people kind of drop down, you'll see less and less investment, right? Because that's probably due to a lack of consistency. A lot of people probably invest one-off here and there, but really are not consistent with it. So understanding why people invest, understanding why it may be helpful for you to invest, I think would be beyond just the behavior of it, is really a switch in mindset to understand that, hey, make sure your money is working for you, and kind of be willing sometimes to give up liquid cash today in order to invest it where you're not really able to touch it right now, but allow it to grow for you and benefit you in the future. All right, the last one is to become a lifelong learner. Now, lifelong learner, what does that mean? It means that you should probably develop the mindset of wanting to always learn more, do better. Learn more and more things that might add to your arsenal that will help you get to your goal even faster, right? And the way to do that is really to focus on that, always have that in your mind, and not necessarily be lulled to sleep by distractions, things that are external, things that really are not benefiting you. And I'm adding this last piece for a bit of motivation. It's not necessarily the best clip for the lifelong learner, but I think it's a really good clip to couple with lifelong learning, to think about how you need to always have that fire under you and about you towards achieving your goals, and remembering why you're doing something, and remembering why it's important to you, and remembering what the goal is in order to achieve that, and always be pushing faster. Even if you're on track, how could you be a little bit faster to even beat your own expectations? So I want to play this clip from Eric Thomas to really kind of light that fire up under us, to really understand that every waking moment that we have, really can be another moment that we can use to progress. You choose how to allocate your time. Obviously we need balance. I'm not advocating for individuals to really live unhealthy lifestyles, but what I will say is that, take an assessment of your day, your free time, all the different things that you could have going on, and make sure that you're using the optimum amount of time for you to push your goals forward. So let's take a look at what E.T. Eric Thomas has to say.
You entertainment seeking. E, did you see Power? Absolutely not. Did you see the Game of Thrones? Absolutely not. I'm trying to blow up. I'm trying to blow up after the blow up. I'm number one. Now I'm trying to find out what's after number one. And you know what that is? That's not a speaker, that's a businessman. So I'm trying to own as many companies as I can, get as much equity as I possibly can. I don't got time for the Game of Thrones. I'm playing my own games. Trying to sit on the throne. You know what I'm saying? Trying to get a throne. I'm just saying, for real, some of you broke and you still entertained. Like, I'm not even tripping on those of you who got money and you comfortable and you want to chill and watch it. I'm talking about those of you who complaining about your job. You ain't got no money and you sitting here complaining about, but then you watching all the TV programs. That's a have-not mentality. The rich person made Game of Thrones. They don't even watch it like you watch it. They can't even enjoy it. They put that joker together. They watch it like, that didn't come right. Oh, Lord. She didn't say it right. They were off. Oh, man. Okay, next episode. You sitting there in a house that you can't even afford. You in your mama basement watching Game of Thrones. You just comfortable. I just need to come out right now. See, give me a device on the next one. We can just start hitting folks in the face. Just blah. I need to bring you to your senses. You in your mama basement watching TV. All right.
All right, so that clip kind of really helps to, take it with a grain of salt, but that clip really helps to understand, put yourself in a frame of mind of you need to do what you need to do to progress, and wasting your time looking at a lot of other people's progression and everything that they're doing is not necessarily the best use of your time if you're not where you want to be. If you are, that's great, but I don't imagine you would be watching this right now if you were not. Dedicate that time to yourself, to taking ownership again of where you are today and getting yourself to a different place. So really just having that mindset of how can I rearrange things, my thought process, what I'm doing, what I'm giving myself to, in order to really understand how to use that, redirect that energy to catapulting you to your next level. All right, everybody, that'll do it for today. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of OPM and Beyond, where we discuss, you guessed it, other people's money, how to learn more about ourselves and create generational wealth. I'm your host, E. Rains. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll see you next time. Come on back now.
'Cause it goes back and forth. I know that you feel that pressure, but I don't ever fall. Keep on rising like a diamond in the rough. In the rough, diamond in the rough. In the